Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to start chapter 4 of the Back Pain Bible, The First Way Your Back Breaks, an intricate marriage between stress and your hip flexors. Quote, disease is the warning and therefore the friend, not the enemy of mankind. Dr. George S. Uyghur. Tom was a competitive bodybuilder for quite some time. He never really trained for the national competitions. Rather, he just stuck to the local ones, but was competitive nonetheless. With his days of competing behind him, he still hit the gym pretty hard, as staying in shape was deeply ingrained in him by now. The day Tom got hurt was just like any other. He slept great, ate well, warmed up, and started to hit the weights when he noticed a disturbingly sharp pain in his left lower back. His body seized up, and Tom was left there lying on the floor wondering what had happened. Tests and MRIs showed 3-disc herniations. Therapy wasn't helping. Tom couldn't sleep, sit, lie, or stand without incredible pain. He ended up finding me through a business associate of ours. The day Tom came to me, I could already see the problem the minute he got out of his car and started walking towards me. His right foot was facing straight ahead, and his left foot was turned out at 75 degrees. Tests showed extreme left glute tightness and extreme right hip flexor tightness. He had what we call in physiology a lower cross syndrome. Utilizing our mobility and motility drills, we loosened up Tom's left glute with some rolling on a lacrosse ball, followed by the proper stretches. Next, we had Tom roll on his right hip flexor to loosen it up, followed by the hip flexor stretch you are going to learn later in this book. Reversing a lower cross syndrome is all about time because it is a rotational problem. Because your body works in a spiral rotational pattern, as you loosen the pattern up, it will start to get tight again when you start to move. While this particular case was not a quick fix, Tom was pain-free in 3 months' time and still enjoys pain-free exercise to this day. So this is actually a close personal friend of mine that came to me through a professional athlete that I was working with. And man, this case was very, very sensitive. He was young, 24, 25, I think at the time. And he came to me like, I want to have kids. I want to have a family. Like, there's no way I could even think about picking up a wet pair of socks right now, let alone, still exercising or picking up a child. And yet, while it did take a lot of time, and I actually ended up getting into a stretch with him, I was stretching his left leg. That's when, I think I took him from 75% to 95% or something like that. It was considerable. He got off the table when I got done stretching him and told me, he's like, I think I'm fixed. He's like, I can't believe how good I feel right now. But this was a very, very sensitive case and very near and dear to my heart as well. I still work with the guy to this day. He's one of my best, closest friends. And really anything that I say in regards to health and wellness, he listens to, he applies, and he gets absolutely incredible results from it. Nutrition, it doesn't matter. I'm basically his go-to. Anything that has to do with health and wellness. And hopefully I'm going to become that for you as well. Let's continue. We don't know what we don't know. After my 30th birthday, I told myself I was going to stop lifting heavy, give my joints a break, and start doing more marathons and triathlons. Boy, was I wrong. I did this for about 3 years, and in that time, went through about 6 bikes. The first one wasn't light enough, the second didn't have the right components, and the third had some aluminum instead of being all carbon. After every race, I became more and more unsatisfied with my bike time, so I switched out the bike. Finally, after taking my bike in for a tune-up one day, the mechanic asked me if I ever had my bike fitted to me, and I said no. What is that? He explained it is a service they offer where they adjust everything on my bike to optimize it for me to be as fast as possible. It was $80, and compared to the cost of a new bike at $3,000, I guessed that it was a good idea. After having my bike fit for me, I had my best bike split ever in my next race. What does this story illustrate? The entire time I was blaming my bike for being slow. It wasn't my bike. It was the fact I didn't know how to ride a bike. More specifically, I didn't know how to optimize my bike for performance, and this led to a lot of wasted time and money on my part. The first concern I always hear from my clients, athletes, is I don't know why my back hurts. I tell them it's because they don't know how the back works. The purpose of this chapter is to help you understand what you don't know about how the back functions and what an intricate marriage the muscles that compromise your midsection are in. Upset one of these bad boys, and it's the back that suffers. Armed with this knowledge, we can better understand our condition, which will then help us to better treat ourselves. So this is the thing, right? Thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or millions of people go into the gym every single day, and they are crushing their abdominals. You never hear somebody call into work, can't come in today because my abs hurt, right? It just doesn't happen. It's unheard of. Yet there are going to be a lot of people that call in and say, can't come into work today because my back is killing me. Can't do this because my back is killing me. I can't go skiing anymore because my back is killing me, right? People have big time problems with their back, but they don't have big time problems with their abs. Yet people are doing way more abdominal work every single day than they are doing back work. Okay. And this is one of the reasons, which we'll get to in a little bit, why if you have a doctor or a physical therapist or somebody, a chiropractor telling you your back hurts because you need to strengthen your core, you are to turn around and run as fast as possible out of that office. Okay. It's just some of the worst advice or information that I've ever heard of in my entire life. It doesn't apply. Your feet tell all. In my opinion, Ida Rolf is the godmother of pain management. In her amazing book, Rolfing, Reestablishing the Natural Alignment and Structural Integration of the Human Body for Vitality and Well-Being, she says, only by bringing peace from the ground up can problems higher in the body be understood. So if we want to fully understand our back pain, we need to look at our feet first. If you ever go to the mall or the beach or any one large area where people congregate, I want you to look down and watch how people walk. Where are their feet facing? Where are your feet facing? More than likely, they're facing out, and this is where problem numero uno is, okay? So if we're looking at our feet, and my right foot is facing this way, and my left foot is straight, okay? This is going to yield a right glute tightness problem and a left side back problem. If, in this case, my left foot is turned out and my right foot is straight, this is going to yield a right side back problem, okay, and a left side glute tightness problem. If you remember in chapter 1, I said we humans are machines, but we are not robots. If a robot is broken, that area just wore out too fast. That's all. With the human body being a web, if one area, in this case our feet, is not functioning correctly, this will largely affect the area that is translating the force the feet are producing. In this case, you guessed it, it's our back. Regardless if one foot or both feet are turned out, the back feels the dysfunction in the form of pain. The ankle and the knee are hinge joints, meaning they function best through straightforward flexion and extension. By turning the foot out, the ankle becomes strained, the knee becomes strained, and the thigh now has to rotate in order to move forward. So I posed the question with this picture, where would this car go? Where would that car go if both of those tires were turned out 75 degrees? How fast, how far, how comfortably would you be able to drive? Not very much, not very much. We need to understand that as human beings, we walk with our low back, abdominals, and hip flexors on our legs. We do not walk with our legs. When we are not pointing our feet in the direction of our movement, the back muscles will suffer. The back muscles simply were not designed for such wear and tear. Being conscious of our foot position is the first step in eradicating our back pain. You can do everything else in this book to the best of your ability, but if you do not fix your foot position, the pain will return. It's just that simple. An exercise I used to do in my gym was called Walking Wednesday. I instructed all of my athletes to take their shoes off and walk feet forward for 3 to 5 minutes. Correcting your feet will take more than just 3 to 5 minutes, but it's a start. I recommended to walk barefoot as much as possible to allow you to actually feel what proper movement is like. It's also a great stimulus for your feet and helps ground us to the earth, which syncs our sleep cycle or our circadian rhythm. The second consideration we need to be aware of is our footwear. The lower the drop and the harder the sole, the better. But wait, Chris, I need arc support. No, you don't. And you'll learn more towards the end of this book about why. So all of my shoes have no drop, or the biggest one are my Nike Metcons for CrossFit that have a 3-degree drop from the heel to the toe. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you want to look at shoes, okay? How high is the heel dropping to the sole of the foot? A lot of running shoes have a 12-degree drop, which would be like this. My Metcons have a 3-degree drop, which would be more like this. Barefoot shoes would be completely flat, okay? And what we are looking at is the problem with the heel cord going into the calf muscle and then the hamstring. When we are standing like this and the heel is elevated, you shorten that entire posterior chain, okay? Everything stays in a shortened manner, and that is going to create uber problems for your hips and your back. Lots and lots of problems, okay? Being conscious of your foot position is the first step to eradicating our back pain. I already read that. Your foot has not 1, not 2, but 3 arches, 26 bones, 33 joints, 109 ligaments, and 19 muscles and tendons. I'd say that's some decent support. Inhibiting the expansion and contraction of our foot's arc sends the wrong signal to the rest of our body from the ground up. In my experience, the best type of shoes have a very hard sole and have a 3 to 4 degree drop. If you like 0 drop shoes, then go for it. Shoes that have high heels combined with cushy air or gel may be comfortable for your feet, but strain these mechanisms we depend on the move. Depending on which type of shoes you decide to buy, we need to be aware that a lower drop in the sole of the shoe will increase foot activity, which will increase calf activity as well. If you're a runner, be careful to not start off too quickly, or you'll wake up the next day with some pretty tender calf muscles. So when you are going from 12-degree drops down to 3 or barefoot, okay, you are going to get very sore calves. Your calves are going to start working muscularly like they never have before in their life. So will your hamstrings, so will your quadriceps and glutes. We want good glute development for strong back posture and for back strength in general. A question I pose to my clients is, can you start today? If you can't go buy new shoes today, can you start walking with your feet forward today? Surely there's nothing stopping you from doing that. Like I said earlier, there is no magic bullet, no miraculous cure, just a bunch of little changes we are going to make that will produce big results. A member that I had in my gym when we started walking Wednesdays, he always walked with perfect foot posture. I mean, his feet were straighter than straight. And I asked him, I said, how did your feet get so straight when you walk? He said, funny enough, I took a class in college where this lady told us about foot posture and how we should always pay attention to our feet being straight. And he said, my feet, I was like super duck walking. And the more that I just paid attention to my foot posture, I got them straight eventually. I couldn't think of a better example for everybody else in the room than this guy saying that right there. So I want you to take it to heart. You're going to look at your feet. Oh my gosh, man, I'm duck footed really bad. And this is why my back hurts. You got to pay attention to how your feet are oriented. They're going to get better. They have no choice to. Okay. How your back breaks. Number 1, the hip flexors. Your pelvis is actually referred to in anatomy as your sacred seat. The sacred seat I am referring to is the one you are sitting on right now. Sitting is quickly becoming the new spoken and has been found to have many links to heart disease and even cancer. In Joanne Staugard's book, The Vital Psoas Muscle, Connecting Physical, Emotional, and Spiritual Well-Being, she wrote about a case study where 12 adult volunteers recorded sitting for a minimum of 5 hours on good days to a maximum of 11 hours on bad days. Sitting is a destroyer of the proper function of your psoas and iliacus muscle, which are more commonly called your hip flexors. Your hip flexors are at their longest, which is about 16 inches in length, when you are standing up. When seated, they shorten considerably. Remaining in this position causes your hip flexors to lock in a shorter position than they can function well in. This causes not only back pain, they originate at the 12th thoracic vertebrae, which is the major rotational joint in the back, to the 5th lumbar vertebrae, descending down and attaching to your femur, but can also create problems with our breathing and circulation as well. Continuing with our fascial web ideology, What we find with the hip flexors is even more amazing. The fascia from our hip flexors continues along and connects to our diaphragm, our heart, our lungs, our kidneys, and several other organs. Having dysfunctional or tight hip flexors not only means our back will hurt from its improper length, but our respiration will suffer as well as our heart's ability to pump blood. Those are two key elements I just don't want to change in my body, if you ask me. Since locomotion is first initiated with your hip flexors, it makes no wonder that they are also directly linked to your brain's fight or flight response. Chronic negative thinking puts your hip flexors in a chronically contracted state. This negative feedback loop can, in some cases, create severe anxiety, and is also why many believe that your emotions have a huge correlation with back pain. As you will find out, the Psoas is not a one-trick pony. Rather, it is the soft-spoken godfather through which the health of accompanying muscles, nerves, bones, and organs must rely upon to operate correctly. As you will see, the Psoas are the foundation upon which this house of cards we call a body is both built around and dependent upon, whether we are running 70 yards downfield evading tacklers or feeling the pain and anxiety of losing a loved one. If I were to describe the hip flexor complex and all that it does in a single word, that word would be elegant. So you're going to notice one of the things while I'm recording these podcasts, I have my book on a massage table that's a little bit higher than hip height, and I'm sitting on a bar stool, okay? Sitting on this bar stool allows my legs to be extended. Like I can move my legs around and extend them and not have my knees and my hips and my ankles at 90 degrees, okay? And there's no back to it either. So I can rotate, I can move forward, I can move back, but more importantly, I need to activate my erector spinae, my back muscles, in order to support myself. Location and movement. The psoas major is one of the longest muscles in the body, coming in at a whopping 16 inches. It has 6 origination sites to the lower vertebrae, 12 to L5, on its way to attaching to the lesser trochanter of the femur, or what we call the thigh bone. Due to its arrangement, the psoas will directly influence the abdominal organs, viscera, nerves, and skeletal balance of the pelvic basin by acting as a hydraulic pump, essentially massaging these structures as the hip flexors are called upon to make the body move. To say we move with our legs would be stating the obvious, but the accurate statement would be that we move with our hip flexors on our legs, as the hip flexors are actually the prime movers of walking. Think about the 10,000 or so steps you take for granted per day, and you will then understand the importance this muscle has for the rest of the body. Movement, mechanical power, and its expression, balance and support all originate from the beloved psoas, making it our foundation as well as our engine. With the aforementioned knowledge, it would not surprise you that the psoas muscles are the only muscles in the body that connect the spine to the legs. Lastly, a hotly debated topic amongst therapists is that the psoas major is the only biarticulate muscle, meaning that the upper portion of the psoas can act as support, while the bottom third of the muscle will act as a flexor. No other muscle in the human body can move in segments. That is, of course, if you think muscles move the body. I worked for Psoas for 6 months, okay, creating content for them. It was phenomenal. I loved it. Those guys are awesome. One of the biggest things that I needed to help people see past was the fact that everybody would talk about how the organs are in the way, the abs are in the way. You can't loosen up the hip flexors with the Psoas. That's true, but you can loosen up the fascia of the muscles of the hip flexors, okay? So that's the biggest thing that contraption does, and it does it very well, better than any other device that's created, okay? I'm not just saying that. I've tried them all. I tried all of these things. They're terrible, okay? The Psoas is the best at doing it. The psoas as a supportive structure. The psoas major can span the width of a human fist at its thickest point near the T12 origin. As it slightly thins on its way down to the thigh bone, a soft, healthy psoas muscle creates what is called the psoatic shelf. As you walk, the fascia of the psoas major expands and contracts, intimately moving with the diaphragm to create multiple massaging rhythms of the body's organs and structures, especially the kidneys, adrenal glands, esophagus, major aorta, and lymphatic system. There is also a complex network of nerves called the lumbar nerve complex, which the psoas directly communicates with. In layman terms, we would call this our gut feeling. In spiritual terms, we would call this our solar plexus. The solar plexus is an area of the body where our personal power, as well as where unwanted or overwhelming emotions are attempted to be controlled. The type of energy the solar plexus creates in the body does not flow through dry, tight, restricted psoas muscles, nor will they do their part in massaging the organs, making their processes more stagnant. This in turn will create an environment where toxins are engorged to thrive. A buildup of toxins will not only affect your physical energy levels, but your emotions as well. There are two ligaments that attach from the diaphragm and wrap around each psoas muscle on their way to attaching to the spine. There is also direct fascial connections of the psoas to the diaphragm, heart, and lungs, which we will get into in a moment. A constricted psoas major will amplify tension and anxiety in the rest of the system by keeping you in the fight or flight response. Much of this occurs due to our posture while sitting in planes, trains, and automobiles, but the number one culprit is our 9-to-5 desk job, or what we could also call stress. In an effort to be efficient, the fascia of our psoas muscles will contract, dry up, and freeze in a shortened position if we sit too much, which we all do. The pelvis then gets pulled forward, improperly stacking the spine, which will amplify compression in the lower spine while sitting and standing. Through the attachments to the diaphragm, the rib cage gets pulled forward, compressing the abdominal area, hindering our ability to breathe properly. Belly breathing dissipates, and heavy mouth chest breathing takes over, which will eventually tighten up the neck muscles, leading to chronic neck tightness and headaches or migraines. Sadly, our counterpunch is to take an Excedrin, which masks the problem and decimates our small intestinal flora. A contracted psoas muscle as a result of sitting too much will also cause 1. A leg length discrepancy if you sit awkwardly and only the psoas contracts. 2. Sexual dysfunction through compressed internal organs. 3. Constipation through toxin buildup and poor food absorption. 4. For women, increased pain during menstruation. For men, due to its close proximity to the ureter, spermatic cord, and related nerves, the prostate will suffer from tight psoas. Knee and low back pain from a rotated pelvis and a compressed spine. 7. Exhaustion once again to not being able to breathe properly and stimulate circulation. Through loosening the fascia of the hip flexors, you will not just remove physical pain, you will be supporting this supportive structure of the human body, allowing you to express health and wellness on an optimal level, not just masking discomfort through the use of pharmaceuticals. Influence of the psoas. The main mechanical function of the psoas complex is to support, not to move. The main muscular function of the psoas complex is to move the legs like a pendulum under the pelvis. As a part of the physiological core of our being, the function of the psoas complex is to inform the central nervous system of our capabilities. Loose, supple, responsive muscles and fascia allow the bones to vibrate in response to gravity, conserving energy as we move. Tight, dry muscles and fascia restrict movement, decreasing the bone's abilities to move freely. Through continued abuse, we will disrupt our proprioception, which is basically our coordination and balance, proprioception, which relates to our balance, equilibrium, flow through nature, and orientation of time and space. When all of these line up, it is said our body is in harmony. Having a shortened, dried up psoas myofascia is like operating on a day-to-day basis off of a wobble board. Movements become herky-jerky or exaggerated at best. Fluidity is lost as bones become more and more misaligned. The pelvis thrusts forward, dragging the spine into exaggerated curves. The femurs will then twist, presenting the foot with an awkward position from which to operate. The body is now fragmented, moving independently rather than together, the opposite direction of a harmonic state. And people are like, I don't know why my back hurts. And you're sitting for, hours on end. In the upper body, it gets worse. A tight psoas myofascia will pull the ribcage forward, like previously stated, inhibiting diaphragmatic or belly breathing, forcing the respiratory system to use more back and neck muscles to take short, shallow breaths. When the diaphragm loses its range of motion, the organs and blood supply do not get massaged, leaving us less oxygenated and lethargic. A tight upper psoas muscle will also compromise the esophagus and major aorta, adversely impacting many metabolic processes in the body, such as digestion and elimination. Tight lower psoas has been noted to reposition the sex organs in both males and females, worsening menstrual cramps for women and decreasing orgasm sensation in men. When the pelvis is frozen in fear, it reroutes the sexual energy upwards to the cardiovascular system as anxiety. This is stated by Wilhelm Reich in his book, The Discovery of the Orgone, The Function of the Orgasm. Sexuality, and I quote, and anxiety present two opposite directions of vegetative excitation. The same excitation which appears in the genitals as pleasure manifests itself as anxiety if it stimulates the cardiovascular system. That is, in the latter case, it appears as the exact opposite of pleasure. End quote. When you look at the fear response in human beings, you are looking at the direct health of the psoas. Every emotion has a muscular sensation attached to it. Thus, emotions are not psychological, they are physiological functions of the human body. The hip flexors, being the engine of our body, play a huge role in our fear responses because only fear has the ability to stop us in our tracks cold. Healthy psoas is a messenger of the integrity in our core, informing a person if they are safe or in danger. During times of danger, the psoas contract, which sends a signal for the diaphragm to get to work, which then stimulates the heart to accelerate. Our cardiovascular system is now on high alert for a fight or sprint away from danger. Tight psoas is essentially crying wolf all of the time, leading to a rise in blood pressure, frequent anxiety, and aberrant breathing patterns, all which can contribute to the dysfunction of the lower back and back pain. As a result of this pretend attack, your body then stays in a state of perpetual tension. This can become a massive problem, which compounds over the years because the smallest sound, image, or thought can stimulate the fear response, causing the psoas to shrink even more. In several therapy circuits, a patient will be diagnosed with weak hip flexors and told that it is the cause of their hip, back, or knee pain, when the real answer is that their hip flexors are exhausted and non-responsive from the persistent stress of wanting to run away from everything, but physically knowing it is unable to, even if called upon. I believe that's what you call a juxtaposition, right? So your hip flexors are perceived to be weak, but they're weak because they're tired, and then they get more tired because they're weak. So it's a negative feedback loop. Not good stuff. The targeted pressure and the power of touch. Pressure is the only outside stimulus able to communicate to the fascia, brain, nerves, and muscles that it's time to relax. With the arrival of foam rollers and therapy balls, there have been many dismissive claims from doctors and therapists that these devices do not truly release muscle tissue. We are warned to only use them for 30 seconds at a time so as to not to harm our internal structures. Yet there are millions of accounts of these devices taking away people's pain. The fastest, easiest, and best way to open the hip flexors is by using a Psoas, which I show you in the trigger point chapter. The Psoas was designed to have the shape of a hand and the hardness of an elbow, essentially for you to become your own best therapist. Until the invention of the Psoas, you would have to look to the ends of the earth in order to find a skilled enough therapist to understand how to release the psoas myofascia. And many come out proclaiming that it cannot physically be done because of all the muscle and intestines in the way, yet it is being done by thousands who have purchased the product. Exactly what I stated earlier. When starting out on the Psoas, do so by using one peak at a time, 3 inches to the side of your belly button at the height of the top of your hip. You then need to wiggle and move around slowly until you sense a pain that is relieving and relaxing. It should be both pleasant and unpleasant at the same time. If trigger points are present, you may experience a pain sensation traveling down the front of your leg or going into your back. Stay on the spot for as long as you can tolerate while taking normal breaths in through and out of your nose, then stand up and walk around. Doing this will immediately activate and retrain the shortened psoas muscle. Repeat for the other side and do this 2 to 3 times. Expect to be slightly sore in that area the next day if you are successful at moving the tissue or breaking things up. The Hindus call the hip flexors the seat of the soul. In Japan, there is an inward attitude of movement and balance known as hara, which is literally translated as belly. Why does it seem that we as Americans are only beginning to open up to the power these muscles and this area holds? The chakra system is known as the cosmic self, a system of points running straight up the middle of the body that work together, connecting our entire body to the flow of the universe. Chakra means wheel, which is believed to be a metaphor for the sun representing celestial balance. When we are constantly stressed, we block the flow of energy going to the lower 3 chakras, which represent the anus, spine, pelvic floor, legs, intestines, hip flexors, ovaries, testes, and diaphragm. This blockage erodes our gut feelings, emotions, primal needs, sexual flow, breath, pleasure, creativity, and personal power. Could this be the reason we feel more divided than ever today? Could this be why you're constantly bloated? Could this be the reason for a lackluster sex life? Could this be the reason for needing 6 cups of coffee a day? Using the So Right frequently will not only help dissolve physical pain, but also supercharge the rest of your body, making it the antenna for energy and well-being it has been built for. Your emotions will improve, your relationships will improve, and your ability to enter into restful sleep will improve, allowing you to wake up refreshed and ready for the day. The aforementioned methods we will be using for the hip flexors are not very comfortable, and I urge you to take them on slowly. But neglecting these muscles will also, once again, not allow you to correct your back pain fully. There are going to be days where you will want to take the day off from these exercises, but those will be the days that will benefit you the most. This is it. Step 1 of getting better, and it is not for the faint of heart. Go slow. Listen to your body, and back off if you feel anything like a heartbeat or a sharp zinging pain. Loosening up the hip flexors can be dangerous if done haphazardly, but can change your life for the better if done correctly. I know what you are thinking. What can I do to make sure this never comes back? I have my athletes and my clients abide by the 20-20 rule. Every 20 minutes you are sitting, stand up and do something for 20 seconds. Do a squat, walk to the water fountain, go to the fridge, or even stand up and do some light stretching. Just don't get stuck in that position. Okay? Let's see. The abs are not your core. We're going to take a short break, and I am going to come back and delve into the philosophy your abs are not your core.